Welcome to Debt Free in 30, where every week we take 30 minutes and talk to industry experts about debt, money, and personal finance. I'm Doug Hoyes. Today, we are going to talk again about credit counseling, and specifically, I want to address what is it, how does it work, but what is it different from some of the other credit counseling type services that are out there. So I'm joined by an expert. Who are you? What do you do? Where do you work?
Sue Davey. I work at the Family Counseling Center of Brant. I am a credit counselor. I've been there for 19 years.
19 years.
Yes.
So you started when you were 10. So
exactly.
that is very impressive. So
yes.
The Family Counseling Center of Brant, tell me a bit about them. Now, I will confess that I know about them because you and I are sitting here in my office in Brantford recording this today. We are at 218 Brant Ave. Your office is just down the street from us. What's the address?
We're at 54 Brant Ave.
54 Brant Ave. So not a very long walk from where we are. But tell me a bit about the agency. How long has it been around? What does it do?
Our agency has been around for 100 years.
100 years?
Yes. We just celebrated our 100th anniversary. So I understand. Now, we're on Brant Ave. We've moved a couple of different times, but I think it originated in the center of the city years ago during wartime, and they were put into place to assist the women who had been left behind. So food stamps and clothes were given to women and children during those difficult times. So I think that's where it originated. And of course, it's evolved. We do lots of different services now. We're a multi-service agency like a lot of other agencies in the city. One of the things that we do is the credit counseling piece.
So that would have been the First World War you're talking about if you've been around for 100 years. So that's pretty impressive. So when you say you're a multi-service agency, so I understand that there are some credit counseling agencies that just do credit counseling, nothing else.
Exactly.
But your agency does a lot of other things. So give me some examples of the types of other things that they would help people with.
So we do other kinds of counseling. So we offer family counseling, individual counseling, couple counseling. We have groups for people who are struggling with certain issues. We have a women's group who do like a self-esteem group. We also have a developmental services department, and we work with those families who have somebody in their home who may have a delay. We offer family relief for some of those families as well. We also do some children's services. We have an office in Hamilton. So we have lots of different services in our office. We also, in the department I'm working in, do credit counseling. So we help those families who are struggling with their finances.
So do you find that there is an overlap, that somebody who your agency is helping in another area also then has financial problems?
Absolutely. I mean, some of the people who work with the person who has a developmental delay, they may be on a fixed income, ODSP or CPP disability. Having a low income may mean that there's struggle to make ends meet. So budgeting counseling may be in order. Some people who come in for couple counseling, sometimes money is one of those underlying issues that can muddy the water. So sometimes, an internal referral is in order so that we can help them with some of their marriage issues, but also help them with some of the financial issues as well.
And I guess it's a chicken and an egg thing, that in some cases, the financial problems are what start off the, marriage problems, for example. Mm-hmm. But in other cases, no, the marriage problems came first, and as a result, financial problems led. Is that how it works?
Exactly. A lot of, when we see a lot of people who are struggling, I always say most people come to see us because of a reduction in their income. If you're going through a separation, you probably are having some financial struggles. If you, some people are coming to us because they've had other issues and they compensate by overspending in certain areas. So, it sometimes it's, one before the other or the other way around. So,
and that's the whole point, I guess, of a full service agency.
Absolutely.
That if someone goes to see you, you can diagnosed that, there's obviously a financial problem. That's why you're seeing a credit counselor, but there are some other underlying issues. Yeah. We've got people who can help you as well.
Yeah, so. Exactly. And that just makes it easier for people because now they know where we're located. They know where to park. They're comfortable with, the intake process and the front desk. And it just feels a little bit more familiar, and it doesn't feel like such a scary place to be going.
Yeah,
so.
and you're helping people out. So let's talk specifically about credit counseling then, which is obviously the service that you are, the group that you're in. Mm-hmm. give us the quick overview then. What is credit counseling? How does it work? What's the process?
First of all, it's self-referral. You can call. You don't need a doctor referral. You don't need anybody else to call you. You just make that intake call. The intake is pretty easy. It's pretty fast. It's over the phone, and then they book you an appointment time to see a credit counselor. They do some diagnosing over the phone as well, because because some people aren't too sure what we do and how we do it. So they talk a little bit about that. People come in and we do a full assessment. We have a look-see at what kind of money is coming into your home. We also do budgeting, and we look at how much money you need. How much are your bills? We look at your top 10 priorities. How much is your rent, your mortgage, your heat, your hydro, your food. Those are the important things that you've got to maintain. We also then look at what kind of debt you're bringing to the table, because in a lot of cases, people have debt that they haven't dealt with and they're not too sure how to do it. Either they can't afford it anymore, or it's old debt that's coming back to haunt them, and so they need a solution for it. So that's what we do is a full assessment. My job is to help them come up with some solutions. What is in their best interest? Is it in their best interest to carry on doing what they're doing? Sometimes it's in their best interest to do a program through our office, and we do have what's called a debt management program. In real simple terms, what that means is instead of you paying each of these creditors, you pay us. We pay your creditors. We negotiate on your behalf. We ask those creditors to waive interest, which can be the saving grace for a lot of people.
So let's take an example then. So a person comes to you, they've got a bunch of debt. What would a typical amount of debt be? I mean, obviously, if someone has $10 million in debt, you're probably not going to be able to help them. If they've got a $50 phone bill, then obviously you can give them some advice on how to catch up with that. What's kind of the sweet spot where you are most able to help someone in terms of either the level of debt or the monthly payments, or like what's the typical person kind of look like?
Well, a typical person that we might be able to help is one that probably has an income that they have some money left over. When we do that budget, they've got some money to address their debt. We do that first because we want to know how much money do we have available to us to address the debt. There are some tweaking that can happen with a budget that we can maybe, enhance that number. And then we look at how much debt they're carrying. When I first started doing this, about 15 years ago, I started specifically working in the credit counseling office. $10,000 was a pretty average debt. Now that $10,000 is rare. We still can help the people who come with $10,000 worth of debt, because if you're on a fixed income, you're on ODSP, that's a lot of debt. That's why it's tough to say what's average. It really depends on what money's coming into your home. We are often looking at a debt load of, $30,000 to $40,000 where people are struggling. But it's not unusual for us to find an unsecured amount of debt that is in the $100,000. Those are few and far between, because trying to put a program together to make it fit and work within their income and budget is tough. But that's what we're looking at normally.
And the key is we're talking about unsecured debt here.
Exactly.
Obviously, if you have a mortgage or a car loan, well, if you stop paying your mortgage, you lose your house. You stop paying your car loan, you lose your car. So in a typical debt management program, you're going to start by looking at their whole situation, and a budget is a very important part of that. And that's something you're very hands-on with. Mm-hmm. And if you determine based on the budget, obviously the person perhaps might have to do a bit of adjusting. You got to cut back on this, cut back on that, but you can afford $300, $400, $500 a month towards your debt. At that point, then you go to the creditors. So it's not something the person in debt is. This is your job. You're the one who is either, I guess, picking up the phone or sending them a fax. Is that how you communicate with the creditors?
Yeah. So what happens is that once a person decides that, yes, this is a best option for them and they want to do a debt management program, we sign them up, and then we contact their creditors on their behalf. We ask them to accept a program on their behalf, which means that they pay us and then we pay their creditors. So yes, we don't pay anybody until we have acceptance, and it is a voluntary program. It's voluntary on the creditor's behalf, the client's behalf, and our behalf. There's a new contract that's put together, and so that's basically how it works.
And it becomes a one-stop shop. Then I make the payment to you, and you deal with all the creditors.
That's right. And we also, now we're set up because we're a little bit savvy on the computers. You can do it at us as a creditor. So you don't have to physically come into the office to do that. I've had people who have, had to take jobs out west or had to go to Afghanistan to work, and they still can make their payments online because they're set up with online banking, and we are set up that way as well. So it's pretty easy. It's pretty convenient. It is voluntary, but it is something that we're probably got acceptance from. About our averages are about 96% would accept a program on your behalf.
That's pretty good success rate.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'd like to talk a bit about some of the specific people that you've helped. We're going to take a quick break, and then I will be back with Sue Davey. You're listening to Debt Free in 30.
You're listening to Debt Free in 30. Here's your host, Doug Hoyes.
Welcome back to Debt Free in 30. My name's Doug Hoyes. I am joined today by Sue Davey from the Family Counseling Center of Brant. Sue is a credit counselor there, and I'd like to talk a bit about, in the first segment you talked about what a credit counselor is, and you're a not-for-profit agency. But when I turn on the radio or look in the newspaper, go on the internet, there's all these other places that are advertising that they're also credit counselors and that they can settle my debt for 20, 30 cents on the dollar. What's the difference between you and those guys? What's the difference between what you do and what they are purporting to do? Because they're saying they're credit counselors. They're saying that they're the same as you. What's the difference?
Well, first of all, we are not-for-profit, and I think that's important. And a not-for-profit agency, we have to be accredited. And what that means is that we have a group of people who come in and make sure that our agency is following a whole bunch of rules. So as long as they're abiding by policies and procedures and they're following all those rules, they get accredited. We have to be accredited as credit counseling. So our department also has to be accredited by a team of people who want to make sure that our group of people are following rules and regulations that are set by, down by our bigger agency that is sort of our the umbrella organization. Yeah. So there's lots of things that we have to follow. One of the things is that we have to be the people who are employed there have to have a certain level of education. So in order to be accredited at our agency, you have to have a university education, and I also have to be an accredited credit counselor, which means I had to go to school and get pass some exams and then have to keep up with my education. So I have to have education points every 2 years. So there's a lot of hoops that you have to jump through in order to get accredited. Some of the debt reduction companies, or whatever you want to call them, I don't think they have the same level of accreditation because they're not regulated. In the province of Ontario, there is no regulatory board that determines exactly what they need to do. So, what they have is a lot of good marketing dollars, which we don't have because of being a not-for-profit. But they also are not regulated. They don't have the qualifications of the counselors are not the level of qualifications that we have to have in order for us to work and do the work that we do.
Yeah, so I guess anybody can say they're a credit counselor. It's not like saying you're a doctor. There's an actual course you have to take to be that. In order to be a credit counselor, to provide credit counseling under, for example, the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act, if someone's done a proposal or a bankruptcy, there are specific courses you have to take, and obviously you're fully qualified to do that. Yep. But over and above that, the agency you're with and the umbrella organization that you're a part of also mandates those standards. So anybody can start a debt consulting company, I guess, but not anyone can instantly become an accredited not-for-profit credit counselor because there's a whole bunch of rules to go through. So I think that's important.
Yeah, one of the things that we have to do is that we have to do, the majority of our counseling has to be face-to-face. All of my counseling is face-to-face. 100% of it is face-to-face. In these debt reduction companies, you have no idea where they even are setting up shop, because most of the time you are not meeting them face-to-face. I would think the majority of the time it is just over the phone. So you're placing your debt in the hands of someone who you've never met, who you're not too sure who they work for. So that can be troublesome. The other piece of the problem, I think, is that you have to pay a lot of upfront fees. So that these companies take their fees up front. And until your fees are being taken care of, they're not going to be in touch with your creditors. They're not going to be negotiating on your behalf. In our case, first of all, we have to have approval before we even send money to them. We do send money to them, and we do take a fee. We do have a fee. That's how we stay in business. But it goes every single payment that you make. We take a bit of a fee, and the rest of it goes to your creditors.
So just to clarify then, how much are the upfront fees when I come in to see you?
To come and see me, just to do an assessment, is free. It doesn't cost you anything. If you do a sign up for a debt management program, the sign up fee is $50.
$50. And so let's say we meet, we decide, yep, a debt management plan is what I need to do. I pay the $50 to get it set up, and then every month I'm making a payment. That's what a debt management plan is. I'm going to settle all my debts.
That's right.
And so how much is your fee each month then?
It's usually 10% of whatever your payment is.
So if my payment is $300 a month, then the fee would be $30.
Correct.
And obviously you'd build it all in, so I'd just be paying $330 a month. It would all be one number for me. And then you get funding, your agency gets funding through many different places. The United Way, I assume, is there funding?
We have some funding is really earmarked for credit counseling, because we're able to offer a free assessment for anybody who needs to, if they live in Brant County or work in Brant County, because we are associated with United Way. That's how we're able to give that assessment
for free. Assessment.
Absolutely.
And then what role do the banks play then? Because the banks are also providing some kind of assistance to you as well?
If we collect on their behalf, they do pay a donation. They make a donation back to the agency. So sometimes we are collecting on behalf of creditors who don't give us a donation. It is not mandatory that they give us a donation. So, you might be collecting for Rogers, or you might be collecting for Bell, and a lot of people have a Rogers and a Bell debt, but they're not obligated to make that donation.
So some of the banks, some of the credit card companies will, some of them won't, and it's all of those different forces that end up being your funding sources.
Our funding sources are sort of, like you say, United Way is part of it. There is some fees that go along with setting up a program. Sometimes we have some fees for going out into the community to do some speaking engagements, things like that. So
great. Well, thanks very much for joining me, Sue. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to give all the links and everything so you can find Family Counseling Center of Brant and other credit counseling agencies. Sue, thanks very much for being here.
Thank you, Doug.
You're listening to Debt Free in 30 with Doug Hoyes. We'll be right back. You're listening to Debt Free in 30. Here's your host, Doug Hoyes.
Welcome back. It's time for the 30-second recap of what we discussed today. My guest was Sue Davey, a credit counselor with the Family Counseling Center of Brant, a not-for-profit full-service agency that has served the community of Brantford and area for over 100 years. As a credit counselor, Sue helps her clients determine their financial priorities and then helps them work on strategies to solve their money problems, which may include a debt management plan, which is a service offered by her agency. In the second segment, I asked Sue to describe the difference between what she does and what a for-profit debt consultant says they can do. Sue explained that her agency is accredited and all credit counselors must have a certain level of education. All of her agency's counselors have university degrees. Debt reduction companies are not directly regulated, so you don't know what you're getting when you deal with them. That's the 30-second recap of what we discussed today. So, what's my take on the difference between credit counselors and debt reduction companies? As I've said on previous shows, the purpose of this show is to explore many different strategies for becoming debt-free. I'm not here to tell you that you should do this or that because every case is different. Obviously, as the co-founder of Hoyes Michaelis & Associates, I'm selling consumer proposals and bankruptcies, so I'm biased in favor of that solution. Sue Davey is a credit counselor, so she would like you to do a debt management plan. The truth is that no one solution is right for everyone. For some people, a consumer proposal is a great solution. For others, it's a bad idea. Credit counseling is the same. For some people, a debt management plan through a not-for-profit agency like Sue's is the perfect solution. You have one monthly payment and reduced or no interest. As Sue said, her typical client has an income that can support the plan and total debt of around $30,000 or $40,000, but it could be higher or lower. If that's you, credit counseling may be a great solution. Of course, if your income is not high enough to allow for monthly payments in a DMP, a debt management plan is not the right solution. Over the last 10 or 15 years, I've referred literally hundreds of people to the Family Counseling Center of Brant and to other similar agencies for credit counseling, and Sue and her team have referred many people to my firm and other firms like mine when our services are more appropriate. That's what I like about Sue's agency. I believe they are genuinely concerned about finding the right solution for their client. It may be a solution they offer, or it may require an outside referral, but either way, in my experience, they always try to act in the best interests of their clients. That's the kind of advisor you want. Someone who isn't just in it to charge you a fee and send you on your way, like some debt consultants do, but instead is working in your best interests. If you can find someone like that, use them, whether they're a trustee, credit counselor, or other advisor. That's why the vast majority of my clients that have also worked with the Family Counseling Center of Brant speak very highly of their services. That's our show for today. This show is on the radio every week, and it's also available on our website and on iTunes, so please tune into this radio station at the same time next week, or subscribe to the podcast version of the show with special bonus content on iTunes. Full show notes are available at hoys.com, and I'd love to hear your comments, which you can leave right on our website at hoys.com. That's HOYES.com. Thanks for listening. Until next week, I'm Doug Hoys. That was Debt Free in 30.
Thanks for listening. This was Debt Free in 30.